Welcome to our deep dive into financial literacy. You've shared some excerpts from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so we're going to explore the core lessons and hopefully give you a new perspective on building wealth.
Rich Dad Poor Dad is really known for its unique approach to money and success. So let's unpack some of those lessons and see how they apply to you.
Okay, let's dive right in. One of the first things that really caught my eye was this idea of the two dads. The author Robert Kiyosaki had his own biological father, Poor Dad, and then his friend's father, Rich Dad. And they both had completely different views on money. And it wasn't just about like how much money they had.
Right. Yeah, and what's really interesting is that both dads were at pretty similar points in their careers, but their mindsets about money were like worlds apart. It wasn't really about their current financial status, but more about their beliefs about money and what it meant to be successful.
Yeah, and that contrast really comes through in their views on like what the root of all evil is. Poor dad believed it was the love of money, while rich dad said it was actually the lack of money. That's like a really thought-provoking way to start the book.
It is. It really is. And it sets the stage for this idea that there's more than one way to view wealth and success. And the author had these two contrasting perspectives constantly shaping his thoughts about money, which ultimately led him to kind of forge his own path.
It definitely makes you question like everything you've been taught about money.
Yeah.
So these two dads obviously had a huge impact on the author, but he also learned a lot from his first business venture with his friend Mike. They were only 9 years old when they decided to collect used toothpaste tubes.
Yeah. It's a pretty wild story, right? They were actually trying to extract this white powder from the tubes to make and sell their own toothpaste.
Whoa, that's some serious entrepreneurial spirit at age 9. Like, wow. Sadly, their plan was actually illegal,
Yeah.
but they still learned a valuable lesson from Rich Dad, even though the business failed.
Oh, absolutely. Rich Dad told them, you're only poor if you give up. So it wasn't really about the success or failure of this one venture, but more about the importance of learning from your experiences and developing that entrepreneurial mindset.
That's such a crucial point. It ties into this idea of not being afraid to take risks and to try new things.
Yeah.
Even if you don't succeed right away, the experience itself is valuable.
Yeah, exactly. Failure is just part of the process.
Yeah.
And that's a very different message than poor dad's advice, which was to get a good education and find a secure job, which isn't bad advice in itself, but it represents a different approach to life and wealth.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that leads us to this idea of working for money versus having money work for you. Rich Dad believed that true wealth comes from building assets, things that put money in your pocket, not just trading your time for a paycheck.
Right.
And to really drive this point home, he actually made the boys work for him for 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, that was a pretty bold move. On the surface, it seems kind of harsh. But what Rich Dad was doing was showing them firsthand the trap of working for low wages. He wanted them to understand the power of financial leverage and how it could be used to create wealth.
Whoa, I never thought about it that way
Mm.
before. That's a total game changer. He wanted them to understand that financial freedom wasn't about working harder, but about working smarter.
Precisely, yeah. It's about building a system where your money is working for you, not the other way around. And this brings us to another key concept from the book: assets versus liabilities.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Sure.
Rich Dad defines an asset very simply. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. But so many people misunderstand this.
They do. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that things like your house or your car are assets, when in reality, they're often liabilities. They might be valuable, but if they're costing you money each month, they're not putting money in your pocket.
And the book uses these really helpful visuals to illustrate this concept. Even without seeing the diagrams, you can almost picture it, right? Money flowing into your pocket from assets like rental properties or businesses, and then money flowing out to cover expenses for things like car payments or credit card debt.
Yeah, those visuals are so powerful because they make the difference between assets and liabilities crystal clear.
It really highlights why so many people struggle financially. They might be making a good income, but if they're constantly buying things that are taking money out of their pockets, they're never going to get ahead.
And this misunderstanding can keep you stuck in this cycle of working harder and harder just to stay afloat.
That's the rat race, isn't it? You get a raise, so you think you're doing better, but then your expenses go up and you end up right back where you started.
Yeah, it's this feeling of constantly running just to stay in the same place. And it's fueled by not understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Those car payments, those credit card bills, they keep you on that treadmill.
So how do we escape this rat race?
Well, the key is to build that asset column, something that's generating income for you even when you're not actively working. That's where the idea of minding your own business comes
Okay, this whole idea of minding your own business is kind of intriguing,
in.
but what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, the book uses this great example of Ray Krumrich, the founder of McDonald's. People think he was in the hamburger business, but his real genius was in real estate. He built a real estate empire by focusing on the land that his restaurants were on.
So he wasn't just selling burgers, he was creating a system where his assets were generating wealth.
Exactly. His business was bigger than just the food. It was about creating this valuable asset portfolio. That's what minding your own business is all about, building assets that work for you.
That's a really inspiring way to look at it. It challenges us to think about our own business and how we can build assets beyond just working for a paycheck.
Exactly. It's about creating that system where your money is working for you, not the other way around.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together. So if minding your own business is about building assets, what's the next step?
Well, the book really drives home this point that the rich don't work for money. They focus on building those assets that generate income, whether that's through real estate stocks or building businesses that can run without their constant presence.
That's the dream, right? To have your money working for you while you're sleeping?
Exactly. Think about it. Rental income from properties, dividends from stocks, profits from a business you've set up to run smoothly. That's passive income, and it's the key to financial freedom.
It all sounds amazing, but I have to admit it can be a little intimidating to think about actually taking those first steps. The book even talks about a woman who was a brilliant writer, but was terrified of selling her work. She had all this talent, but was completely frozen by fear.
Yeah, that's so relatable. Fear can be paralyzing, but Rich Dad believed in converting that fear into power. He encouraged recognizing your fears and using them as fuel to learn and grow.
So it's not about ignoring your fears, but about using them as motivation to push forward.
Exactly. And he also talked about the importance of identifying your don't wants. What are the things in your life that you absolutely don't want to happen?
That's an interesting way to think about it. It's like using your negative energy to fuel positive action.
Yeah, it's a really clever way to reframe your fears and use them to your advantage.
I can already see how this could change the way people approach their finances. It's not just about making money, but about developing a whole new mindset.
And that's where financial literacy comes in. It's not just about knowing how to make money, but about understanding how money works, how to manage it, how to make it grow, and how to protect it.
It sounds like financial literacy is about having more options in life so you're not trapped in that rat race.
Absolutely. And the book breaks down financial intelligence into four key areas: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law. It's about developing a well-rounded understanding of how money works in the real world.
So it's not just about reading one book, it's about continually learning and expanding your knowledge.
Exactly. Financial literacy is a lifelong pursuit. It's about constantly reading, attending seminars, talking to people who are financially successful. It's about being a student of money.
And finding those mentors and heroes who can guide you on your journey.
Absolutely. Rich Dad always said, find heroes who make it look easy. Because when you see someone achieving what you want to achieve, it suddenly feels more attainable.
It's like they've already shown you the path.
Exactly. They've paved the way. And you can learn so much from studying their example.
I love that. It's about finding those people who inspire you and learning from their success.
And don't forget about the importance of giving back. Rich Dad was a big believer in giving, both in terms of money and knowledge.
So it's not just about accumulating wealth for yourself, but about sharing it with others.
Exactly. He believed in tithing and paying it forward. It's about creating a cycle of abundance. When you give generously, you open yourself up to receive even more in return.
Wow, this is really making me rethink my whole approach to money.
That's the power of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It challenges conventional thinking and encourages you to create your own path to financial freedom.
This deep dive has already been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much ground, from the contrasting views of the two dads to the importance of building assets and escaping the rat race.
And we've explored the power of financial literacy and the idea of finding mentors and heroes to guide you on your journey.
But we're just getting started. Stay tuned, because we're about to delve even deeper into the lessons of Rich Dad, Poor Dad and explore how you can apply them to your own life. So we just talked about the power of giving and creating a cycle of abundance. It makes you wonder, what does the path to financial freedom actually look like?
That's a great question, and it's important to remember that it's not about getting rich quick. It's a journey that takes dedication and a willingness to challenge your beliefs.
You mentioned that you retired early. Did you follow the principles from Rich Dad, Poor Dad to achieve that?
Absolutely. It was a process of slowly building up my asset column. Just as the book suggests, I started small with real estate investments, learning the ropes and gradually expanding my portfolio.
That's amazing. It shows that these principles can actually work in the real world.
What I found particularly helpful was the book's emphasis on understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. That was a real aha moment for me. It made me realize that I needed to focus on acquiring assets that generate income rather than simply accumulating possessions.
Yeah, the book also cautions against thinking you've made it once you achieve a certain level of success. It shares a story about a group of wildly successful businessmen from the 1920s who ended up losing everything within a few decades.
Yeah, that story really underscores the importance of financial education and understanding how money works. It's not enough to just make money. You have to know how to manage it, protect it, and make it grow.
So financial literacy is crucial for long-term success, not just for making a quick buck.
Exactly. It's about having the knowledge and skills to navigate the complexities of the financial world, especially as the world is constantly changing. You need to be able to adapt and make informed decisions. Rich Dad Poor Dad provides a solid foundation for that.
It's like having a roadmap for your financial journey. We talked earlier about the visuals of cash flow patterns for assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
Those really help solidify the concept for me.
Yeah, those visuals are so effective. They clearly demonstrate how money can work for you or against you. It all comes down to understanding what an asset truly is. It's not about what something costs, but whether it's generating income or draining your resources.
The book also delves into some areas that a lot of people find intimidating, like taxes and corporations. It can seem overwhelming. But Rich Dad Poor Dad actually encourages readers to embrace these concepts.
Yeah, it's about understanding how the system works and using it to your advantage. Legally, of course. The book argues that the rich don't get taxed in the same way as the poor and middle class. They understand how to use corporations to minimize their tax burden and protect their assets.
So it sounds like it's about taking control of your finances and not being afraid to learn about the less glamorous side of things.
That's a great way to put it. It's about empowering yourself with knowledge and taking charge of your financial future.
Another thing that resonated with me was the emphasis on overcoming fear and self-doubt. The book suggests that many people have a financial genius lying dormant inside them because they've been conditioned to believe that money is evil or that they're just not good with it.
Yeah, those limiting beliefs can be incredibly powerful. And the book encourages readers to challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with more empowering ones. It's about identifying your don't wants, those things that you absolutely do not want to happen in your life, and using that as fuel to push toward your goals.
So it's about turning those fears into action.
Exactly. It's about harnessing that negative energy and transforming it into a positive force for change. The book tells a great story about a woman who was a fantastic writer, but she really struggled to sell her work. She was just crippled by her fear of rejection and didn't know how to market herself.
And the author encouraged her to kind of step outside of her comfort zone and learn those necessary skills to succeed.
Precisely. He pointed out that being a best-selling author isn't just about writing, it's also about selling. She had this amazing talent, but she needed to overcome her fear and learn how to share her gift with the world. It's a lesson that applies to all of us, regardless of our chosen field.
That's a great point. It's a reminder that we all have unique talents and abilities, but we need to be willing to put ourselves out there and share them with the world.
Absolutely. The book also stresses the importance of finding mentors and heroes, people who have already achieved what you aspire to. It's about surrounding yourself with those who are playing the game at a higher level. They can offer guidance, inspiration, and even open doors to opportunities that you might not have known existed.
It's like having a personal guide in your financial journey.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to copy your heroes in a sense, not in a literal way, but by emulating their mindset, their strategies, their approach to business. It's like tapping into their knowledge and experience, learning from the best.
That's such a smart strategy. It's like having a shortcut to success. But Rich Dad Poor Dad also cautions against being too specialized. It suggests having a broader understanding of different areas of business.
Yeah, Rich Dad called it knowing a little about a lot. It's about developing a well-rounded financial intelligence. The more you understand about accounting, investing markets, and the law, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions and spot lucrative opportunities.
It's about being able to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's not about becoming an expert in every area, but about having a solid foundation of knowledge across different disciplines. This allows you to make connections and see opportunities that others might miss.
One of the concepts that initially seemed counterintuitive was the idea of paying yourself first. Most people prioritize bills and expenses and then save what's left over. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad actually argues against that approach.
Yeah, if you always put yourself last, you're constantly delaying your own financial well-being. It's about shifting your mindset to prioritize your financial future. Treat your savings like a non-negotiable expense. Pay yourself first, then take care of your other obligations.
It's like making your financial health a top priority.
Exactly. It takes discipline and a willingness to challenge conventional thinking. But if you can make this a habit, you'll be amazed at how quickly your savings can grow.
The book also talks about paying your brokers well. Again, it seems kind of counterintuitive to spend money when you're trying to save and invest.
But the philosophy behind this is that the right professionals, brokers, attorneys, accountants, they should be making you more money than they cost you.
It's about leveraging their expertise and connections to maximize your returns.
Exactly. It's about viewing them as partners in your success. They can provide invaluable guidance and open doors to opportunities that you might not have access to otherwise.
So it's about investing in your financial future by surrounding yourself with the right people.
Precisely. It's about building a team of experts who can help you navigate the complexities of the financial world.
Now let's talk about a concept that sounds a bit intriguing, being an Indian giver.
Hmm.
What exactly does that mean in the context of finance? Being an Indian giver sounds kind of shady. What does that even mean when we're talking about money?
Well, it's not about being dishonest at all. It's more of a strategy for structuring deals where you're aiming to get your initial investment back as quickly as possible.
So you're basically recouping your investment like right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book uses the example of purchasing a property, say, for $50,000 in cash, then you rent it out, and within a few years, you've earned that $50,000 back. So from that point on, you essentially own the property for free, and all future income is pure profit.
That's brilliant. So you're like minimizing your risk and setting yourself up for long-term gains.
Precisely. It's a similar concept in the stock market. You might invest in a stock for a short period. Once you make a profit, you can take your initial investment out and just let the remaining profits ride. It's a way to reduce your risk while still allowing for potential growth.
It's like having your cake and eating it too.
You could say that. Yeah, it's about being strategic with your investments. Of course, every investment carries some level of risk, and Rich Dad Poor Dad doesn't shy away from that. It even uses the example of the Alamo, where Texan soldiers chose to fight to the death despite being completely outnumbered.
It seems like a pretty extreme comparison.
It might seem that way, but the point is that failure is a part of life and business. It's about learning from those experiences and using them to become stronger and more resilient. Rich Dad believed that failure inspires winners and failure defeats losers.
So it's all about your perspective and how you choose to view those setbacks.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about reframing failure as an opportunity for growth. You can't let fear of failure hold you back from pursuing your goals. And speaking of goals, the book emphasizes the importance of having a strong reason or purpose for wanting to be rich. What are your deepest desires? What drives you?
It's about finding your why. It gives you something to strive for, especially when things get tough.
Exactly. When you have a powerful why, you'll find a way to overcome those obstacles. It's also crucial to be mindful of your thoughts. That negative self-talk, the chicken little voice in your head that says, I can't afford that, or investing is too risky, that can be incredibly limiting.
We all have that voice sometimes. It can be hard to ignore.
It can, but Rich Dad Poor Dad encourages you to challenge those negative thoughts. Look for evidence to the contrary and focus on creating a more positive and empowering internal dialogue.
It's about becoming your own cheerleader.
Exactly. You need to believe in yourself and your ability to achieve your financial goals. You mentioned earlier the concept of finding a financial fast track. That really resonated with me.
Yeah, it's about working smarter, not just harder, right?
Precisely. The book gives the example of learning how to buy real estate foreclosures. It's a specific strategy that once mastered can generate significant wealth. It's not about get-rich-quick schemes, but about finding proven methods that can accelerate your progress.
So it's about finding those shortcuts, those formulas that can give you an edge.
Exactly. It's like finding a secret passageway to financial success. But it all starts with education. You need to be willing to invest in yourself and your knowledge. It's about becoming a student of money and constantly seeking out new information and strategies.
That ties back to the concept of financial literacy. It's an ongoing journey.
Absolutely. You need to be a lifelong learner, always striving to improve your financial IQ. Now, this might sound a little strange, but the book also talks about using greed as a motivator.
Greed. Isn't that kind of a negative thing?
It can be, if it's not channeled in the right direction. But the point is that we all have desires, things we want to achieve or acquire, and sometimes that desire, that little bit of greed, can be a powerful force for action.
It's about harnessing that energy and using it to propel yourself forward.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between ambition and contentment. The key is to not let greed consume you. It's just a tool, a source of motivation.
Rich Dad. Poor Dad also highlights the importance of your environment. It encourages readers to surround themselves with positive and financially savvy individuals.
Yeah, it's about building a network of people who can support and inspire you, people who are playing the game at a high level and can offer valuable insights. At the same time, the book cautions against listening to poor or frightened people, those who are constantly predicting doom and gloom. Their negativity can be contagious.
So it's about being mindful of the company you keep and seeking out those who uplift and empower you.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment that supports your growth and helps you achieve your financial goals. And to bring this all full circle, the book ends with a really powerful message about the importance of giving.
That's something that's been woven throughout the entire book, this idea of creating a cycle of abundance.
Yeah, Rich Dad believed that when you give freely, you open yourself up to receive even more in return. And it's not just about money, it's about sharing your time, your knowledge, your resources with others. It's about making a positive impact on the world.
It's about recognizing that there's enough for everyone.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. When you believe that there's plenty to go around, you're more likely to give freely. And that generosity often comes back to you in unexpected ways.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on money and wealth building.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad challenges conventional wisdom and encourages you to think differently. It's a book that can truly change your life if you're open to its message.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's one piece of advice you would offer to someone who's just starting their financial journey?
I would say start with your mindset. Believe in your ability to achieve financial freedom. Challenge those limiting beliefs and then take action. Even a small step like opening a savings account or reading a book about investing can make a huge difference.
It's about building momentum and taking those first steps toward a brighter financial future.
Exactly. You don't have to do it alone. Find mentors, heroes, and a supportive community to help you along the way.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm leaving with a renewed sense of purpose and a whole new set of tools to create financial freedom.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, the journey starts with a single step. Now go out there and create the financial future you deserve.
And that concludes our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We hope this exploration has sparked new ideas and empowered you to take control of your financial destiny. Thanks for joining us.